Well, hello everyone. The weekend is here, although what that means in this day of coronavirus lockdowns, I don't know, since a lot of us are having to do everything from home anyway, but whatever it means, I hope you're doing well and staying safe, and I hope you're not taking the bad advice that government sites are apparently giving people about cybersecurity, according to security expert Brian Krebs. I thought this was a little bit important, so I'd go over it. And what we're really seeing now is a whole lot of malware and phishing attempts and things like that based on coronavirus, because that's what they do. They play on your fear. And if you receive an email that says something like, oh, you have to click on this right now, by getting your fear to turn on, it kind of turns off the logical part of your brain. And you're more likely to click that link, and then you're lost and you're in the middle of a phishing attack. And whether it's ransomware or whatever, there's a lot of stuff like that going on right now with coronavirus, and you really need to protect yourself. So these government websites are apparently not helping things at all with the bad advice they're giving them. And he says many U.S. government websites now carry a message prominently at the top of their home pages, meant to help visitors better distinguish between official U.S. government properties and phishing pages. So generally we have to worry about this stuff like with banking websites. They might convince you that you're at your banking website and you can type in your password, and now they got the password to your online banking. Well, here they're doing the same thing, but they're taking advantage of the fact that so many people are going to government websites looking for information about coronavirus. So unfortunately, their advice is misleading, and he gives as an example the Census Bureau, and this is a census year, so we're all getting those little things in the mail say, hey, you need to come here and fill out the census. Well, I haven't heard of anyone doing a phishing attack like that, but it's possible. And they're like, hey, you haven't filled out the census yet. That's illegal. You need to make sure you click here and do it. It's like, oh, no, I don't want to break the law. So you want to make sure that you're actually filling out the actual census on the actual census website and not giving all your information to a hacker. And so what they have on my2020census.gov is a panel showing how you know it's really the website. They give you two pieces of advice, and both of them are wrong. The first is the .gov means it's official. Well, it is true that theoretically, at least, .gov websites are given out to government websites only. But we'll get back to that in a minute. There are ways. But what he's really talking about is the second piece of advice. This site is secure. The HTTPS:// ensures that you are connecting to the official website. No, it does not. All it means is that your connection to the website is encrypted. That's all it means. It's meant to prevent a man in the middle from sticking himself into that connection to the website and causing mischief, either giving you bad information on the website by altering it, or by intercepting your password or anything sensitive you put in. So, yeah, the mere presence, as he says, does not mean the site is legitimate, nor is it any proof the site has been security hardened against intrusion from hackers. In other words, while readers should never transmit sensitive information to a site that does not use HTTPS, the presence of this security feature tells you nothing about the trustworthiness of this site in question. And so this is an amazing thing that's happening. The proliferation of all these free certificates is just securing the web. My websites are secured by free certificates from Let's Encrypt, because why not? And that's a great thing. That means that we can have more and more websites secured. But the thing is, that also makes it easier for the hackers to secure their phishing websites. Because that kind of attack is not what TLS says it is now. Used to be called SSL. Is not what it's there to protect against. And it says, according to PhishLab, by the end of 2019, roughly 3/4, 74% of all phishing sites were using SSL certificates. And Fish Labs founder and CTO John LaCour said attackers are using free certificates on phishing sites that they create and are abusing the encryption already installed on hacked websites. So, yeah, they can just go to, we've actually seen this before. You know, PayPal.com has its own certificate that it uses. Someone wants to set up a fake PayPal.com, you know, well, a while back, there was actually a website that was set up by hackers. It was pretending to be Twitter.com. It was really TVVITTER.com. Yeah. So it kind of looked like Twitter if you weren't looking that closely, but it was two V's instead of a W. Well, nowadays, there's no reason why they wouldn't have been able to get a certificate for TVVITTER.com or any other kind of typo squatting, as they call it. So, I mean, we've seen things like that before. It's trivially easy for them to get a certificate for it. It's also trivially easy for them to get one on a separate top-level domain. Like, I think there's something now called .banking. They've added all of these TLDs, you know, which is good because it gives people more options, but it also allows for this to happen. I don't remember if it's called banking or something like that. We'll say .banking just for the idea. But it's normally PayPal.com. And if someone set up a fake PayPal site and called it PayPal.banking, they could get a secure certificate from it. But it's even worse than that. Because if PayPal.com, if they go to DigiCert, I don't know who they got their certificate from, but DigiCert is a very popular one, and it's nice and secure and trusted. They say, give us a certificate. Someone else, and I think this actually happened with PayPal, they requested one from Let's Encrypt. It said, hey, we're PayPal.com. Give us a certificate. And Let's Encrypt said, okay, because there are different root certificates that provide for all this. Now, Let's Encrypt has taken steps to prevent stuff like that from happening in the future, but not all of them do, so it's actually not as difficult as it should be for them to get a certificate. And that's just how the situation is. Krebs says, the truth is, anyone can get an SSL certificate for free, and that's a big reason why most phishing sites now have them. The other reason is that they help phishers better disguise their sites as legitimate, since many web browsers now throw up security warnings on non-HTTPS sites. They couldn't find any reliable information on how difficult it may be to obtain an SSL certificate for a .gov site once one has a .gov domain, but apparently it's not difficult for just about anyone to get their very own .gov domain name. You want one, you can get them. This was... What was this? Oh, come on, browser, reload it. All right. Oh, yeah, back in November. It's way too easy to get a .gov domain name. So, the idea of .gov is you know you're getting it from a governmental entity, right? You know that this is the government and not someone else pretending to be the government. Well, a researcher was who contacted Krebs on Security was able to get a .gov domain by filling out and mailing a form and just pretending to be a city. He got some letterhead off the homepage of a small U.S. town. They only had a .us domain. They didn't have a .gov domain. And so he was able to impersonate the town's mayor on the application. And he said, I used a fake Google Voice number and fake Gmail address. The only thing that was real was the mayor's name. And so he was able to get that. I had to fill out an official authorization form, which basically just lists your admin, tech guy, and billing guy. Also, it needs to be printed on official letterhead. Yeah, I mean, like everyone has color printers nowadays. You know, go to the municipality's website and just look at any document they have, grab their letterhead, and you can do that. And Krebs says, technically what my source did was wire fraud. Had he done it through the U.S. mail, he could be facing mail charges if caught. But a cyber criminal, particularly a state-sponsored actor operating outside the United States, likely would not hesitate to do so if he thought that registering a .gov was worth it to make his malicious websites, emails, or fake news social media campaign more believable. I never said it was legal, just that it was easy. The source said, I assumed there would at least be ID verification. The deepest research I needed to do was Yellow Pages records. And Krebs did a bit of research on how easy that was to get. I won't go through it all, but he did get the whole, we're working on the problem type of thing, which probably means nothing's going to be done. But towards the bottom, if you want to do your own phishing attack, guess what? Houston.gov, LosAngeles.gov, NewYorkCity.gov, and Philadelphia.gov are still available. I don't know if they still are. This was in November, but first of all, please don't do that. I'm kidding. Please don't really do that. But you got to watch out. And if you're in charge of something like this, whether you're in charge of the security for a city or a county or town or whatever, and you're thinking, well, we can just use a .us address and not a .gov address, or you're with someone like PayPal and you're like, yeah, .com's fine. We don't need to dot the others. You might want to consider what's called planting your flag. Okay, so Philadelphia.gov. They don't have that. They have Philadelphia.us. But they may want to say, hey, we want to go plant our flag on Philadelphia.gov, redirect it to Philadelphia.us, and that'll stop someone from basically doing a bit of social engineering, registering Philadelphia.gov, and being able to cause mischief that way. So going back to our first bit that we were talking about, for my2020census.gov, the .gov means it's official. Well, not necessarily, as we just saw. And the site is secure. No, it just means the connection is secure, not the site. And also, like my2020census.gov, who would think it would be, that one? If someone had managed to con them into giving them 2020census.gov or census2020.gov or any of a number of different variations of that. They could set up a fake census website and probably fool a lot of people. So, now he said, I should note that this misleading message seems to be present only on some government websites. They're on the GSA, Department of Labor, Department of Transportation, and Veterans Affairs. Those for the Commerce Department and Justice Department are devoid of the misleading texts stating, this site is also protected by an SSL Secure Sockets Layer certificate. By the way, it should be TLS, not SSL, because SSL is an obsolete protocol. But people still say SSL just kind of out of habit, out of momentum. But it should be TLS. That's been signed by the U.S. government. The HTTPS means all transmitted data is encrypted. Okay, so that's better. That's not letting you know. It doesn't say the site is secure, just the transmission. Other federal sites like DHS.gov, IRS.gov, and EPA.gov simply have an official website of the United States government at the top without offering any tips about how to feel better about that statement. I love that ending. That's a great way of putting it. But yeah, these protocols, the SSL and TLS protocols, they have flaws. Older protocols have to be deprecated, newer protocols made. SSL went up to 3.0 before they said, you know what, we're just tossing all of that. We're going over to TLS, that's Transport Layer Security. And so they had TLS 1.0 and 1.1 and 1.2, and now they're up to 1.3. TLS 1.3 has been out for, I think 2 years now. TLS 1.2 has been out for over 10. I think it was 2008, actually. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked that up recently. But yeah, it's been out for a long time. You would think that most sites would have gone over to TLS 1.2 at least by now. And they should have, because there are so many problems with TLS 1.0 and 1.1. But in related to this thing about can you really trust the government and the government's websites, let's go over to the release notes for Firefox version 74 and take a look at some of the things we've done. This is not about Firefox 74. this is like, oh, look, it's got all these new features, and it's got various security fixes, and look at what's changed, and hey, wait a minute, here's something that kind of stands out here. Something that used to say, we have disabled TLS 1.0 and TLS 1.1 to improve your website connections. Sites that don't support TLS 1.2 will now show an error page. Because those are so old, they're so untrustworthy, and so they want to say, okay, you know what, forget it. We don't want to support those old protocols anymore. We want to protect our users. And by throwing up these errors, Microsoft and Chrome and Mozilla deprecate these protocols, and that kind of gives the web designers a little kick in the butt. You go, oh, I'd better upgrade my protocols. Well, you may notice there's kind of a strike-through type thingy through that. Yeah, what's that all about? Well, it's stricken through, and it says, we reverted the change for an undetermined amount of time to better enable access to critical government sites sharing COVID-19 information. Because apparently they're not using the newer protocols. Now think about this. We're talking about critical government sites, and we're talking about sharing important information on COVID-19. And they're using older protocols that have security flaws, which means that there are ways for a hacker to get in. They can get in. They can change the information on the website, alter it to say whatever they want. And if people are going to these websites and a hacker's taking them over, it's not good. It's not good. They're using the ancient protocols. TLS 1.1, oh my God, that might not quite be 20 years old by now, but it's old. It's really, really old. Yeah, shouldn't be using that. But yeah, I mean, I get why Mozilla did this. They want people to be able to access these government websites. But why are these government websites using such ancient security protocols? They need to get their act together and get things upgraded. So please be careful out there. There are a lot of phishing attacks and other malware attacks and ransomware and things like that going around COVID-19 based on the scares and the concerns and everything else that people have. Based on the fact that a lot of us are now working from home instead of working from the office. And at the office, theoretically, at least, you're firewalled from a lot of this stuff. So you don't have to worry so much about it. But then all of a sudden, you're working at home and you don't have these sophisticated firewalls that the enterprise network at your work does. So you're more vulnerable because of that. So please stay safe out there. Not just staying safe and doing your social distancing to stop the spread of coronavirus, but also help stop yourself from getting these attacks and these attacks being spreading around, the ransomware and the phishing attacks and everything else that's going on. You got to protect yourself all sorts of different ways. There are people out there who will take advantage of that. People who have no morals, people who have no qualms about playing on the fears, people who have no qualms about giving you misinformation to try and convince you to give up your private information or do whatever else you want. So please stay safe out there. But I really hope you're weathering this well. I hope you got plenty of toilet paper and everything else you need. I hope you're able to spend time with your family and have fun and do things. Yeah, there are a lot of things that you just can't do right now because so many things are closed down. But, you know, a lot of us are going stir crazy in our homes. But please, I hope you're weathering it through all right. And I hope you're at least having as good a time as you can. Maybe treating this as a little bit of a staycation. You know, just kind of relax. Don't sweat it so much. The stress about stuff like this can also be a big problem, especially if you've got something that you're fighting off. Even if it's not COVID-19, even if you just got a seasonal flu that you're fighting off, you know, the more stress you have in your life, the harder that's going to be. So please just try to protect yourself as much as you can without sweating it too much. And above all, stay strong and be free.